Welcome to this look at the Taos Society of Artists. I am Preston McCall. Let me tell you a story of my discovery of this group of interesting paintings from New Mexico. I discovered Santa Fe, New Mexico as a youngster when my parents took us there on a road trip to California. I was a little afraid we would be attacked by Indians, but my father bought me a cap pistol and I felt well armed. Years later, I went to art school to study painting and art history. I heard tales of how big the art business was in New York City. I also heard that there were some 200 plus galleries in Santa Fe. I went to New York and had a one-man show. I was not impressed with how pompous and stuck-up most of the galleries treated me, a young and aspiring painter. Although the show was a success, my heart was just really not into the Big Apple. To pay for my art habit, I started a couple of businesses. One restoring old automobiles, and the other a sign company. I had a secretary whom I'd known in art school named Patty. She mentioned she always wanted to explore the art market and art scene in Santa Fe and Taos. On a warm August day, we took off together in my old VW convertible down the Santa Fe Trail, listening to Beatles songs and wildly singing along. I had a book of lyrics, so our singing was most enjoyable. We glided into Taos first and wandered around the next day, checking out the few art galleries. I was most impressed with the architecture and basic look of the town, not to mention the stick fences, dogs wandering freely, and some delicious Mexican food. We then took off again towards Santa Fe, some 90 miles to the south, driving along the Rio Grande River and admiring the incredible mountain scenery. I recall definitely I felt I was no longer in Kansas. That was 1982 and my fourth trip to Santa Fe. Once when I was well armed with my cap gun, another time when my sister was in graduate school in Albuquerque, a third time on a road trip with my wild redhead girlfriend in 1976, before she ran off with the nefarious dart thrower, and finally the fourth trip was with my friend Patty, who was an artist and my secretary in my car shop. We checked into the La Fonda Hotel and immediately fell in love with the city and its brilliant, brilliant culture. Wandering around the plaza, we saw many galleries, some local artist pop-ups, and many primetime galleries carrying serious and well-priced paintings. It was a real eye-opener. I wanted to go back as soon as possible and try to find a gallery to show my work. Finally, after showing successfully in several Santa Fe galleries, but not selling many paintings, I started my own first gallery right off the plaza in 2001. We carried some 25 different painters and, of course, my work. I still lived in Kansas City, but had a small apartment to live in Santa Fe, driving back and forth to 700 plus miles once a month to return to my business of window painting for a week. We sold some 350 of my paintings over the next couple of years, but the landlords were terribly dishonest, and we sold off the assets to escape their terrible treatment, and returned to Kansas City to resume my successful window painting business and to hopefully reignite my marriage. Then in 2014, after connecting with Susie, another painter, we returned back to Santa Fe and opened McCall Fine Art on Canyon Road. The new gallery was much bigger with a sculpture garden and much more display space for paintings. Naturally, we sold quite a few more paintings, both mine and Susie's, as well as numerous other painters and sculptures. Finally, after the 7-day-a-week grind and the long hours of running retail jail, we sold it off and returned back to Kansas City just as the pandemic hit. Okay, that is how I came to know Santa Fe in northern New Mexico. I took many trips to Taos, Ghost Ranch, Black Mesa, Rio Grande Gorge, all over northern New Mexico. I enjoyed the incredible scenery, the art, and the people. I especially enjoyed meeting some warm and creative American Indians as sculptors and craftsmen. I met many artists through the gallery, and my 8+ years of living there, slowly I became aware of the Taos Society, which started in Taos some 107 years ago. I saw a few of their original paintings for sale at some higher-end galleries. Slowly I began an appreciation of the work, and once I really began to research it, I became a serious admirer of most of their work. Bert Phillips and Blumenschein journeyed down from Denver in a horse-drawn wagon in 1898. A wagon wheel broke, and one of them had to go into Taos to get it fixed, while the other stayed at the wagon, hoping to not meet any bears or savages. They managed to get the wheel fixed, and they wandered into Taos. They became totally enchanted with the rustic and unmanifest destined Taos, which still was back to normal. They set up painting and became immersed in the culture of the Hispanic and American Indian cultures. Others followed suit. J.H. Sharp came in. He was some 14 years older than Blumenschein and 8 years older than Phillips. Sharp was already an accomplished painter with many accolades and knew the other two from studies at the Julian Academy in Paris. Walter Ufer, E.I. Kaus, W.H. Dunton, Ian Cummings, Victor Higgins also joined the group of white men painters living in Taos. By 1915, they formed a society with a set of common goals in hopes to band together to find great success as painters of a completely different environment. Taos, mountains, snow, American Indians, horses, friendly people, and a completely different menu. In just a few years, there were hundreds of painters coming to Taos to see what the fuss was all about. Now I have prepared this video showing a smattering of some of their paintings. I'm also about to produce in the next week individual videos about each of these 8 painters. Look for these and notice some of the similarities of their works. In preparing for this large set of videos, I've studied some 400+ of these paintings and have a few comments about what these guys were really up to. I would be curious if any of you might have some comments as well. So please hit the like and subscribe buttons and contact me if interested. I appreciate your interest, and once again, I am Preston McCall, and I thank you.